Okay. Now, okay. Hey, good morning, everyone. I think we'll probably just wait. People are still arriving. Let's just wait a moment before we start.
Are you still seeing my presentation there? Yeah.
No, I've turned it off.
Okay, you do that. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Now. Good. Good, I think we'll start. Sinead, can you keep leaving people in as they arrive? Excellent, thank you. And good, so good morning, everyone. You're really welcome. Glad to see there's lots of you. We have 111 here on Zoom at the moment, and we also have people on YouTube as well. So I'm Alan Gray. I'm the director of the Irish Association of Youth Orchestras. So really happy to be doing this. Is the first of this particular type of workshop. We've been doing it online. So the Irish Association of Youth Orchestras normally runs a festival of youth orchestras at roughly this time of year. In addition to lots of ensembles through the summer. Of course, we can't do that this year. So the orchestras who were due to take part in the festival asked us to do something that young players across the country could take part in. So this is one of those things, and we're really delighted to have Vincent Kennedy, composer, here to do a workshop just on how to get the best out of the music and how to get the best out of the at-home performance. Vincent's very well known to us in IYO as the conductor of the Donegal Youth Orchestra and also as a composer for the Donegal Youth Orchestra. He also conducts lots of other ensembles and is quite a prolific composer. So I think we'll just hand over to Vincent now, and we'll have a playthrough, and Vincent will talk about the music. And I see there's teachers here and there's young players as well. So feel free to ask questions in the chat box here on Zoom, or if you're on YouTube, ask questions in the chat box on YouTube. And Sinead, who is with us, will then ask your questions to Vincent later on. Okay, great. Thank you very much. And hand over to you, Vincent.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to my home here on the outskirts of Dublin City. And thank you for inviting me into your homes as well to talk to you today. Alan, is the actual presentation showing up there for everyone? Because I'm not seeing it here.
Not as yet, you'll need to do a screen share again.
Okay, I have to do that again, all right.
Yeah, sorry, I turned you off.
Okay. Okay, just give me 1 second then. I'll go back to that. And screen share. Okay, are we there now? Yeah, can you see that? Yeah, great, okay. So, what I want to talk to you about this morning is my inspiration for this piece, and then shortly I'll ask you to play along if you so wish, so you have your instrument and music ready, because it's good to have the piece and play it and have the real context of what we're doing here today and what we're planning for over the next few weeks. And I'm then going to share some helpful suggestions on preparing your music, ideas on how certain parts can be simplified. And for those of you who have parts with more than one octave at choice at times, which octave to play and how you might choose that octave. And then also just a little bit about how you should arrange your music sheets when you're going to record your music and tips on that. And as Alan said, I'll answer any questions, or we'll try and answer any questions as we go through, or later at the end also. So also this, just to let you know, I think this has been recorded, the video of this session, so that people who can't be here today will be able to see it afterwards. And just a reminder then, finally, that your video recordings need to be in by Friday, the 9th of April. So I think to start with, talking about my inspiration for this piece. Well, it was a great honor, first of all, to be approached by the IAYO to write a piece for this project, to have a piece for all of the musicians who, like me, like you, are missing playing and performing music, and some of you especially missed out on playing on the National Concert Hall there recently in February. And my inspiration behind it, and the title Hope Springs Eternal, was really about the situation we find ourselves in, you know, that we've come through a lot of darkness, a lot of bleakness, and I started writing this in the bleak midwinter, over Christmas time. And at the time, there was a lot of COVID, there still is around. And also my aunt, Peggy, down in Cork, is 100 years of age, got COVID. So that was very worrying. And thankfully, she's come through it. So that brought it home to me and other friends who had been sick and other people who had been bereaved, just how terrible this disease is and what it's doing to us all. And particularly in our case as musicians, it's taken away the opportunity to play music. So this project and this piece then gives us the chance to come together to perform a new piece of music. And I began writing it so that as many people as possible could take part. So whether you're just beginning at a beginner level, or whether you're a professional or semi-professional level at the higher end of the youth orchestras, there's something in this for you. There's something you can play. There's some way that you can contribute to this. And it's based on the theme of Hope Springs Eternal, which is something that's very close to my heart, because all through history, the human beings have overcome great wars, great tragedies, great pandemics, all the things that have gone through history. And hope, and that feeling of hope has kept us alive in that. And the same is true of this, that we're hopefully now emerging with the vaccines from this terrible period. And very soon, we will be back playing music again. So I wanted to write about that and have music that commemorates both what has happened in terms of the suffering, and then that looks forward to hope and joy and dancing and music playing and all those good things of life, and getting back to the best of normality. And as I was writing it in January too, the spring signs were about, the snowdrops were in the garden, the daffodil stems were up, the sun was out, the days were getting longer. And as I said, my aunt was recovering. So that's the theme of the music. And, you know, it starts with a slow march. And it's a kind of tribute then to all of the people who have suffered over this period. And then we go into a more strong, hopeful piece and a folk-like tune, which is all about hope and happiness and joy. And then finally, we end in this triumphant way with the return of the opening theme, except in a more majestic way, then with the dance tune going on over it and finishing out triumphantly. So it's a celebration, and it's something for us all to look forward to. So let's start then by playing the music. And please, if you have your instruments and music, please play along to this. It's going to start with 4 clave beats as a time piece for you. You might want to turn up your sound a little bit, because when we tested this earlier, the clave pieces were a little soft. And I'm going to just test this first of all and ask Sinead if she can hear it, to make sure that everybody is hearing it. Can we hear that, Sinead? Okay, so hopefully everybody's ready, and enjoy this, because this will set the context then for what I'm going to talk about afterwards. So here we go. Part 10. Part 38. $106. $158. Okay, so that sounded super. I am. Now, just give you a moment to put down your instruments and continue on. So I'm going to give a number of examples as I go through the next session. Okay, and stuff from the examples can be taken and applied to different parts. So just because the first one says violin 3, it's not just for violin 3, it's for it can be applied right across the parts, and it can be applied to different parts of the music. So my first tip is leave out notes that are new to you or very difficult for you to play. So the opening key of E flat major can be a difficult one for string players and violins, particularly with E flats and things like that. So if you see this, the example I've given there, on the first line, it's the music as is written, but in the second line down here, I've just highlighted the notes that can be played. So anywhere through the music, you can do things like that. You can leave out notes. You can even leave out whole passages of the music, 8 bars, 16 bars. My purpose is for as many of you as possible to play all, or if not all, parts of the music at least, so you can feel that you can be part of this wonderful get together that the IAYO is having. So that's the first thing. And that's something that I was taught myself from my early years, that if in doubt, leave it out. And the other thing about the music is that if you can't do it at this time, there's nothing to say you can't do it later in the year when hopefully you're back together and the orchestra hopefully performs this music, or you are involved in an exchange with another orchestra. Your orchestra goes to meet another orchestra in the country, and this is a piece that you could perhaps do together. You can look at the parts, the other parts with the instruments. So this is violin 3. There's no reason why violin 3 can't at some point look at the other parts and see, well, what is violin 1 playing where I'm playing this? So it's also that aspect of having something to look forward to reach for the stars in relation to your music playing and your own ambition. The other thing I would say is that never to be afraid of writing in the names of notes or in fact putting sharps or flats in pencil. And as this is my music, I give you full permission to write in colored pen. I like colored pen because it's good at highlighting it. So if you see the example 2A here, oboe 1, there's the line as it is in the music, but there's nothing to stop you, if you're an oboe player or any other musician, any other part, adding in the flats and later we'll see sharp signs. E flat alto saxophone here in another passage. So they are, when we go into the second section, the faster section, and it's in the key of D major, the concert for most instruments. The poor E flat alto saxophones have now gone into B major, which is very, very difficult for them. And there's lots of sharps for them. So you can see it's a bit, when you put in all the sharps, but nevertheless, it's good to know from playing point of view what notes are actually sharps and what notes are flats, as the case may be. So my advice is there, don't be afraid to write in those notes if it helps. Then rhythms. So there's a lot of different rhythms throughout the piece, and you can simplify those rhythms as you play through the piece. So we take this example of violin 1 and bar 38, dun, 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 that rhythm there, that can be simplified out into dun, 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 dun. And there's plenty of examples all across the different music parts where people can simplify the music like that. The music is generally in 8-bar phrases or 16-bar phrases. So there's a lot of repetitive rhythms as you go through the music, simplifying it down. You could even play, in some cases, just the first beat of the bar, bum, bum, just to stay with the music if you're playing along to it. Because that'll all be added into the mix of the sound of the music for the end product. Other examples here, a snare drum, same rhythm as the violins there a second ago, and here we have it shortened down, or even simplified further to just bump, 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 bump. So anything like that that you think or your teacher thinks can be done is good, because it helps you then to play along with the piece all the way through it. Here's another example of what I was saying about writing the names over notes. In this case, it's the low clarinets, because when you have a lot of ledger lines, it can be hard to read them and figure them out. So that's one way of doing them. Another way is actually writing in what the notes are above in the staff, and then you can see it much more easily what these notes are here, and then play the lower notes. Or in fact, if the lower notes are too low for you, well, then play it up the octave. That's also another way of getting through the music. And I'll talk a little more about octaves later on. Simplifying phrases as well. So in the folk-like tune in the middle, the bassoons and the clarinet, the first clarinet and the harp and the piano have a lovely accompaniment to that piece. And I think it's a really nice part. But if you can't play all the notes, well, you can shorten it down. Instead of playing the whole bar, you can play the first three notes, da-da-dum, ba-da-dum. But if you do that, don't hold this note here, this third note long. Where am I going? Sorry. Don't hold it as a long note. Don't go ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. Just go ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. Or again, if you're playing the part and this is just too tricky for you at the moment, then just play the first note of the bar just to keep the music flowing along. Bump, bump, but don't play it with an accent. Just play it with a soft tongue or a soft press of the key or pluck of the string. Again, this is another example where you can change things to make them simpler and keep going along with the music. In the viola, you can just play bom, 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 bom. Things like that help you to keep the flow and help you keep playing along with the music. Or, as I said earlier, you could leave out the whole phrase, but it's good, I think, to try and play along to as much as you can. Here's another example from the cello and the bass clarinet and bassoon and tuba and harp and piano bass lines and double bass also have this this line here, and that can be changed to bom, bum, 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 bum. So these notes are picking up the notes that are in the previous rhythm. All these things you can do. Another example where we have pizzicato on double bass, and this is in the cello part as well. And again, bassoons have something similar where you just play the first note of the bar. And in pizzicato, that works really well. If you were a bassoon, for instance, playing this, I would say just play the first note of the bar, just play it short. Bum. The other thing to say is that for those of you who play percussion instruments, there's 2 extra parts now with the list that's on the page for the IAO. I put all the mallet percussion parts into one, so now they're all in one part rather than in 3 separate parts. And similarly, I've done the same with the non-tune percussion. So all the drums, snare drums, the cymbals are all now in the one part. And there it is, the name of it up there, 25A, so that you find that on the list of things. And that simplifies all those parts for percussions, particularly those of you who have kits and want to play along using a kit and use your cymbals and your toms and the snare drums. Now, some parts, there's an example there taken from the flute part. I've given different octaves to play. And so when you come to choosing yourself which octave to play, that's what I want to talk about now. every instrument has a bottom note limit beyond which no more notes can be produced. It's just physically impossible to get a note lower than the note. You have a bottom string, you can't get any lower than that. Well, you could adjust your tuning peg, but that's not really what we're talking about here. There's a limit on it, on where a note can go. And the same is true for all of the wind and brass instruments. And the piano and the harp are limited by whatever string it is that is the bottom note on the particular instrument. On the other hand, then, how high an instrument can play depends on your own technique and your instrument. The only exceptions there being piano, harp, and tune percussion, where there is a definite, again, number of keys in which you can play. In getting high notes on any instruments is only part of the story. You have to play them in tune and hold them securely and with strength. So to play a higher octave part and play it well, you need to have that combination of having the note in tune, playing it with strength, and to hold it securely. This is my big tip for today for any of you who compose or are interested in arranging. Every instrument sounds well within the staff on which of the clef it plays from. So here I give 3 examples: the treble clef, the alto clef, and the bass clef. All of those notes for any instrument that uses those clefs will sound well on any of the instruments. Okay, it's so if you're arranging or if you're composing and you keep to those in and around those ranges, your music will always sound really well and really good. And the same is true then when it comes to the octave playing, that when you go to choose which octave you want to play the octave that sounds the best on your instrument for you. And that, for me, the sound is the most important aspect. It's much better to play a lower octave well than to play a higher octave and it sounds out of tune or screechy. So for instance, in this example with the flute, which is these lines here, you know, there's nothing wrong with playing this lower line, or there's nothing wrong in fact with the flute line here and actually playing it and making another octave lower and playing it like the lower down, if it sounds better than the higher one. Okay. There's also nothing wrong with wanting to play the higher octave and being able to play it, because when you're able to play the higher octave, it does add hugely to the piece, wonderful extra color, and is really effective, you know, like in these examples here for the trumpet and also for the French horn here. You know, they add so much more if it's done well. But again, there's nothing lost by you, for your part, playing a lower octave if you can't get those higher notes as well as you might like at this point. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with switching between octaves if that suits at times. Okay, there's a passage particularly in the flutes and violins, where I've heard people switching between octaves, and it works really, really effectively. Again, here I've just given another example of simplification for trumpets here, where they have this triplet in demi-semiquavers. Well, you can break that down to the smaller level. And that works across all parts. And so that people know also the way I've written the music, when I write with the stems all on the same notes, it means you have a choice of which octave you to play. If it's a part like here, horn 1 and 2, when the stems are separate, then that's where the divisi comes in terms of which is the first and which is the second part. Trombones, again, same thing. It's divisi here along. And the divisi parts are good because they actually give you a good way of actually going between octaves if it suits. So, for instance, if you didn't want to get up here securely, you could play here and then move up here. So pick the octave that is the best for you, the one that's going to make your instrument sound the best for the recording that we're involved in here. And add it to the combinations of the other tips that I've given in terms of simplifying parts if necessary, so that you produce for yourself the best sound possible, and that gives you the greatest satisfaction. And then you can hope then at a later stage to play all of the notes and go for the higher parts when you feel more secure in them in further performances, hopefully, of this music. So the piece is just under 6.5 minutes long, okay? We have spoken, I was speaking to Alan and Sinead yesterday, and they've been talking to Sophie, who's involved in putting all of the music and the videos together. And you can record your part in sections, because for some 6.5 minutes might be too long to do all in one section. So that's one thing to know. Now, if I say anything, Sinead or Alan, that's not correct in this, you might just correct me afterwards, but that is the case. We can record in sections. If you're recording in one go, make sure your pages are set up so that you can change them easily during the breaks in your music as you play the music. So that might be 2 pages together, and then you come to a rest, and then you can change over easily enough. And don't be afraid to stick pieces of the part together onto different pages if it suits. So if you have a rest halfway down a page and you think that the next section will work better on another page, well, then just you take out your scissors and cut it off and stick it onto another page to help you to set up your music stand and have your music across your music stand, so that you can change the music when you need to as quietly as possible, because you don't want that ruffling sound in the middle. And I would suggest maybe if you put your music stand on a rug, so that you can just pull off the 2 pages you've just played, and they can fall on softly onto the rug, and then you have your next sheets ready to go on with your recording. So that's all my tips at the moment, and we'll open it up now for questions if anyone has any questions. And Sinead, you might let me know what questions are, and I'll try and answer them as best I can.
Yeah, so far we just have the one from Tom Quinn, who's asked, could you ask, how do you identify a key change in the music?
The key change, well, so the key signature will be the chief way of identifying the key change. So I think the key change is at bar 22 for all instruments at bar 22, and then changes back again at bar, what is it here now? At bar 182. So we start off in E flat major, and then we go into D major, and that goes into the minor form then of B minor at one point during that. But the key signature itself doesn't change. We just have the accidental A sharp note coming in for some instruments during that period. So I hope that answers the question for Tom. You might come back in if it doesn't.
Great, thank you, Vincent. This next question, I might actually be able to answer this. So this is from Kitty Sabry. If we are to record in sections, will we pick the stop sections, or are there certain parts that we want you to stop at? So we asked Sophie about this, and she said you can do it in as many sections as you're comfortable with, but you must clearly label the bars in the files that you send us. If that's not clear, just do let me know. So for example, if you just want to record bars 1 to 20 in the recording you send, make sure you mark it as bars 1 to 20. Okay, another question from Olivia. In my part at the start, I'm given the choice to play either E flat or a low B flat. Could I play E flat for the other 3 low B flats as well?
So what part has Olivia got there? Just can she tell us what part she has?
Oboe.
Oboe. So So her question again is, just say the question again to me. She's got, could you just read out the question again?
Sorry, yeah. In my part at the start, I am given the choice to play either E flat or a low B flat. Could I play E flat for the other 3 low B flats?
Yes, she can.
Brilliant. Thanks, Olivia. So Jennifer, hi Sinead and Vincent, can students who are not part of an orchestra take part? Yes, they can. Thank you. We'd love to have them.
Yeah, very welcome.
So from Aoife O'Donovan, when recording, do we just do audio or do we use video too? Video as well, please. All the instructions are on the Hope Springs Eternal webpage, and Sophie Butler, who'll be putting it all together, has created a really handy video on the best way to record and really clear instructions.
Can I just say something about video there, Sinead, as well, just in practical terms, just things to just, so when you're doing a video of yourself playing, you might want to get your mum or dad or someone else in the house just to check out your video because you won't necessarily be conscious of things that are in your background. So my background today now, I've got the windows out to my garden, but you might be in a different room and you might have things on the wall. You don't want to be giving out the passwords of your computer, which might be stuck on the wall, or your bank account names, or photographs that you mightn't want necessarily in. So maybe just get someone to check that for you. And also to check your video, that the light is right for you, that you look the best that you can be, and that it's not too dark. And if you can do something about that, either move the place or put in an extra light on it. But the little things in the background can sometimes be picked up that you wouldn't necessarily notice. So just watch out for that. And it's good to have someone else do that for you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Vincent. Does anybody else have any questions that they want to, if you want to unmute yourself and ask them, or if you want to type them into the chat, we'll ask them for you. I've got another ones over there.
No, Sinead, I've just allowed everyone to unmute themselves because I have the master key for all that. I have a question which is me probably not reading stuff, which is if people are filming on a phone, which they probably are, is it best to have a portrait, so long and skinny, or short and wide? Has Sophie said? Sophie has said either. I will double check that, but Sophie in her instructions said either portrait or landscape. I'm just going to double check that. I have it open in front of me. Yeah, either portrait or landscape, whichever works best to get yourself and your instrument as in view as possible. So we want to see you playing your instrument in your video. So whatever works best.
And another thing to say about recording as well is that no matter what device you're recording on, you should Google to see what's the best way of recording the sound from what settings, because they vary on the different types of technology. And there's loads of stuff out there on instructions about what the best settings are for sound and video. And when you do them, it makes a huge difference to the quality of the sound that you actually record, which also then will help Sophie in putting the music together. And that's particularly true of Zoom. There's settings for actual music playing as distinct from when people are talking on it.
Okay, we have a few more questions coming in there, Vincent. So this is from Leah. Do we record the part we play? Do we record our part we play? Leah, I'm not entirely sure. So you record the part for your instrument as on the website. I think that's what you mean.
She may also mean, well, I play second violin, so do I practice second violin and play second violin, or can I play first violin? That's some people have asked that before. So what we need is people to play all the different parts, because music is not just about the top part. It needs harmony, and it needs bass, and it needs rhythm. So I think you should play the part that you're used to playing, but have the ambition to look at the other parts as well and go through those. And I don't think there's anything to stop someone submitting more than one video. So if, for instance, if they play another instrument, they can also do that. Or if they wanted to play two different parts. It just will make the work of Sophie much more additionally complicated to have more videos coming in. But our plan for this music is that, okay, while we're doing this as an online project at the moment, that, you know, eventually we get to perform it live in real orchestral situations. And I personally favor our orchestras all over the country meeting up and having exchanges. And I can say on behalf of Donegal Youth Orchestra that any orchestra in the country is welcome to come and visit. And I know that happens with other orchestras. And it's really great if you have a meetup like that, to have a couple of pieces that you can play together, that you're not just playing your own piece on your own and the other orchestra plays their own pieces. Putting the two orchestras together works out really well. So this is one of those pieces that maybe can be used for that. There are lots of others as well. But I would certainly be encouraging that.
Great, thank you, Vincent. The questions are coming in thick and fast now. So from Ellen Crowley, can me and my sister record together if we're playing different parts?
So it might be better if you're playing different parts to record separately. Because then it's easier for Sophie to put the music, like put all the first violin parts together in terms of the sound. And the interaction between the two different instruments might interfere with that. But having said that, there's nothing to say you can't do it either. Okay, because I think visually it looks very, very good to have siblings playing together.
Great, thank you, Vincent. So from Kitty, when we record in sections, do you want them all in one go or at one at a time? That one we might have to check with Sophie. But I think that possibly if you could send them all as the one we transfer, it might be easier for her to keep them all together as you and put you all on the one timeline. But we can double check that with Sophie. Oisin Murphy, should we record in 720p or a different resolution?
So I don't know what that means. I imagine it's to do with the video.
I know what that means. So probably a lower resolution, if it suits you, would be fine, because it's going to be lots of this kind of Zoom-like stuff. And 720p looks nice and crisp on a full large screen. So if 720p is what your phone does, that's great, submit it, that's fine. And if your phone or whatever you're recording on does better at a lower resolution, that will do us fine too.
Thank you, Alan. So Carol Daly, how do we tune our instruments so that we are all at the same pitch? Should we use a digital tuner? Thank you, Carol.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We would need to say what that is, whether it's 442. What's happened on other projects as well is that if you can also tune to the sound file, so you can tune to the opening note of the second bar, which is a concert E flat. It's not a very good note to tune to, though, for instance, instruments. I think we probably need to say what one it's going to be, Alan. I think in terms of the tuning, if people are tuning.
In terms of the tuning, so what is the recording at 440 or at 442? The recording that you have made from Finale, I'm guessing it's at 440.
Yes. But I think Sophie also said that she could adjust stuff in relation to that as well.
Yeah. I think we'll recommend, so if the recording's at 440, then we just do 440, and we'll write that in on the web page as well.
Lovely, thank you.
Carol.
So from Sophie, what kind of room is the best to record in? I suppose what Sophie has a few instructions there on light. So for example, you don't want a whole load of light coming in behind you so that we can't see your face. But whatever room you're most comfortable in, really, and whatever room you can comfortably play your instrument and have your camera set up so that we can see you and your instrument.
And you were trying to avoid a big echoey room. Most houses wouldn't have that, but you know, that's it. If the sound echoed around the room, that would be very noticeable. You'd know that, and also that you know, practice in the room, because sometimes certain things in the room can start to vibrate along with your wonderful playing. So you want to take those things out of the room for your own recording.
Thank you, Vincent. From Paul Gillespie, can we use a mic to make the sound quality better in the recording?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Breeding Kelly says, thank you for the invite. You are more than welcome, Breeding. Majella says she's very much looking forward to doing it. Thank you, Majella.
Thanks, Majella and Breeding.
Connor Hale, do I record in low definition or high definition? I think we have that answered kind of a bit earlier. So 720 will be fine. Okay, so this is from Tisha. When we are recording our video, does the music track have to be audible? So Sophie has it in her instructions. So no, you will have to listen to the click track, which has the music, through headphones. So you'll need two devices to record. So one to actually record yourself on and one to listen to the piece of music as well through headphones. Okay. Is there any dress code? That's from Shayna. No, whatever you want. Whatever you're most comfortable in. And Alan, just to go back to the definition question, has written to us, 480p or even lower is just perfect. You'll all be on little screens. 720 is high definition, but a mixture is totally fine. When we record, so this is from Kitty again. When we record in sections, will we label the bar numbers at the start in the recording? I think if you can label them in the name of the recording when you send it, but what I might do is I might get on to Sophie and we might do a little section on the website about recording in sections. So we'll put up guidelines there. So we'll make that clear. Thank you, Kitty. Great. Okay.
I think for Kitty's question, like something simple like Kitty 1 bars 24 to 64, you know, then the second Kitty 2 bars 65, something like that, something simple that makes it easy to identify from the title of the submission that you're putting in is useful.
Great. Okay, that is all the questions I have at the moment in the chat. But if there is any more, please do pop them in and we'll make sure to get to them.
Yeah, and on the page, also on the IIYO page about the piece, my email is there, so you can also, if there's any other questions about the music, you know, don't be afraid to email me about that if you have specific questions yourselves. I don't have any problem, and we'll get to them as soon as possible. And some people have done that already, so that's not an issue. Because what I want is for, and what we all want is for this to be the best it can possibly be, and that it can celebrate all the great work that all your teachers and conductors and you yourselves, and all the commitment of yourselves and your families over the years and to music making in orchestras.
Now you're back.
And we can make this a great example and a great calling card for the Association of Irish Youth Orchestras, and the great things that have been achieved and that we can all achieve working together.
Thank you, Vincent. Okay, a couple of more questions coming in now from Tom. In a piece, how do you identify when the key changes from minor to major?
Okay, well, where that happens is in the middle section from the from about bar 74. That tune that comes in there is kind of goes between minor and major in its essence. Most of the time, though, the music is in a major key. The section preceding that is a kind of in an parts of it's in an atonal. There's no real key to it. The basic key in concert pitch is in D major, but there are notes that are outside of D major in there as well too. So there is a bit of that. That kind of describes almost like this emergence that happens in spring, where the seed is germinated under the soil, and it's kind of seems a bit messy as it makes its way up through the soil, and then it bursts out, and then this flower forms for it. Creations are often messy in that respect, and so it's out of that that fast section that begins at 22, the atonal section that emerges this what I call a nice tune then at 74, which floats in and around major and minor key. But for some of the instruments, that's much more noticeable because they do have the A sharp in the actual notes that they have to play. So if you've got accidentals in there, then that's a great way of knowing that you're in the minor part of the piece.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vincent. And thank you, Tom, for that question. I think I have one last one here, which Alan has also answered in the chat. It's from Dara. Do you record the whole thing in one video? Simply, if you want to, yes, or the option is there to do it in sections, whatever you're most comfortable with. Okay. Great. Okay. I think, again, that's it for the moment.
Okay, well, I hope people have found this useful. And I just personally just want to wish everyone the very best in your recording. I hope you enjoy the music, and I hope you enjoy the experience of playing the music and being part, being your special part of something that's very special, with hopefully as many of our musicians taking part to make this a wonderful occasion of celebration that is due to be broadcast in May. I've forgotten the exact date. Alan, do you remember the exact date?
On the 9th of May.
9th of May, yeah. And that we can spread it all around the country and all around the world and show all the wonderful things that are happening in music in Ireland. And that will be a sign then, and as the vaccine rolls out, that very soon, sometime before the end of the year, we'll be all back to making music together again, as we used to. That's my hope in it. So we might finish then just by playing through the piece again, so that we know the context in which we're all talking about now, and in which we're setting off over the next few days and weeks to complete our individual videos, and that will then become part of this project. Okay.
And just before we do that, sorry, there is one final question, Vincent, sorry.
No problem.
So this is from Michael, which Alan I think has just answered. I don't play for 82 bars at the start. Can I just play from bar 83, or do I have to start from bar 1? And that's the recording. But
what instrument is Michael playing there? Does he say?
Not yet, Michael, if you just want to type in your instrument into the chat there. Oh, tambourine.
Tambourine, yeah, that's a really important part, the tambourine. Yeah. What he should do in that case is, he should just, I know where he comes in the middle section. Yeah, it's fine for him. What was the question? He wants to play from where he comes in.
Yeah, the recording. So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine, but just make it clear that's what he's doing. Okay, so maybe put down Michael and his name tambourine from bar such and such. Okay, but that's a really good part that Michael's got to play. Yeah.
Great. If anybody after the session has any questions, do just send an email to either Vincent or info@iayo.ie as well, and we'll do our best to answer them all as clearly as we can.
If I could just make another suggestion to Michael there as well too, that because now there's that part that has all of the non-tuned percussion together, and then it includes the part he's playing on tambourine. You know, he could actually play along with that part, and he could play from the very beginning. He could play the same rhythm as the snare drum has. You know, that would work really well. Okay, if he wants. You know. Okay, so we play one more time then to finish and have our context. I hope I can remember how to do this. So I'm back to the beginning. So thanks very much, everyone. Happy spring equinox, is it? Today, tomorrow. Enjoy yourselves over the next week. Music should be fun, in my view, so enjoy what you're doing. And I know whatever you do will be the best you can do, and thank you for that. And thanks for everyone at the IAYO for organizing this wonderful event.
Thank you very much too, Vincent.
Thank you. That's a pleasure on my part. So we're going to start again to play, and again, there's 4 beats to begin, so you might want to turn up a little bit. And we'll play out to this and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Here we go. 106. Two. $158. Wonderful. So I'm really looking forward to hearing and seeing the result in early May. And best wishes to everyone. And thanks for this morning.
Thanks from me too.
Thank you.
If anyone wants to stay for a chat, I'm sure you can.
Thanks a million. I really like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Bye.